Hello, my name is Will and welcome along to another Rudiment of the Week. Rudiment of the Week. This week we're looking at single strokes. The single stroke roll is essential when it comes to playing the drums. It turns up in our drum fills, it turns up in our drum beats. Pretty much everything we do on the drums in almost every style of music will use single strokes in some way. To play the drums without single strokes is kind of like having beans on toast without the beans. So just toast or beans on plate. It's not going to work. It's not going to cut it. It's a rudiment that every drummer should be able to play, and if you're new to the drums, it's probably one you've actually been using without even realizing it. The pattern is really simple. It's literally just right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Forever. You can just do this forever. In fact, I would advise practicing this forever and doing it as much as possible. It's a simple pattern, but one we'll spend our whole lives trying to improve, whether we're beginner or advanced. And today, I want to share with you some exercises that I use to improve my speed with single strokes. Now, the exercise I'm going to be showing you today is counted in 8th notes and 16th notes. We count 8th notes as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we count 16th notes as 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. We're going to be going between the two of them, and actually this 16 bar exercise I'm about to show you is going to be broken up into 4 parts. Part number 1. So to begin with, we're going to play a bar of 8th notes followed by a bar of 16th notes. So we're going to play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and straight into 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. And we're going to do that twice. So it goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. That's it. Part number 2. So for the second part of the exercise, all we're going to do is half the amount of everything. So now I'm only going to play half a bar of 8th notes, 1 and 2 and, followed by half a bar of 16th notes, 3E and a 4E and a. So that's 1 and 2 and 3E and a 4E and a. Now I want it to last the same amount of time as the first part of the exercise, so I'm going to do that 4 times. Should sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3E and a 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3E and a 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3E and a 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3E and a 4E and a. Part number 3. So for part 3, we're going to do the exact same thing again. We're going to half everything. So we're only going to play 1 beat of each subdivision. So that means it will sound like 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4E and a. One more time. 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4E and a. Now, depending on how you want to count this, you might want to feel it as 1 and 2E and a played 8 times, or you might want to feel 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4E and a played 4 times. It's totally up to you how you count it, but it should sound something hopefully like this. 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4E and a 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4E and a 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4E and a 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4E and a. Part number 4. Part number 4 is really straightforward because all you have to do is just play 16th notes for 4 bars. So literally just 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 4 times. Should sound something like this. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Once you can play all 4 parts, it's time to see if we can put all of them together and play parts 1, 2, 3 and 4 back to back without stopping. Now, speed is the end goal, but speed is nothing without accuracy and timing. So when you first start trying to put all of those parts together, try and see if you can play them slowly. That is just as important as being able to play them fast. We want to take our time, make sure we get everything nice and even, and we're able to go between the subdivisions with ease and control. So try the whole exercise all together slowly first and then increase the speed bit by bit. I would advise maybe trying to play this along with a metronome as well to keep you in time. If you haven't played with a metronome before, you might find that a bit tricky at first, but hopefully you come to grips with it as you play it through the exercises. The good thing about playing with a metronome is that you can then kind of track how fast you're playing something. So give this a go. I'm going to play it for you in 3 different tempos, just so you can hear what it sounds like. And after that, I'll take you over to the drum kit and show you some ideas you can play as drum fills using some of the exercises we've been doing just there. Let's take a look. So remember, when you're practicing the exercise on the pad, to really take your time. I've shown you 3 very different tempos there, but when you actually practice it, it'd be better to kind of move up in small chunks. Start really low, maybe about 50 BPM, and move up, I'd say, in about chunks of 5 or 10 BPM at a time. That way, you allow your hands to slightly adjust, and you actually don't quite realize that you're getting faster and faster. If you go for the massive jumps, it's really obviously different, and your technique might not be able to keep up with the speed that you want to go at. So take your time, and I promise you'll get faster hands in no time at all. Here at the kit, I wanted to show how you can use different parts of that exercise for some drum fill ideas. Now I'm going to be showing you a few beginner ideas, and then I'm going to move on to some more intermediate advanced drum fills as well. But I would advise having a go at both, even if you're an advanced player, because one will help the other. The first thing I want to do is zoom in to the second part of our practice pad exercise. So that was the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the half a bar of 8th notes, half a bar of 16th notes. That phrase is 1 bar long. And I want to take that and literally just put it on the drums. So first of all, I'm just going to put it on the snare drum alongside a couple of bars of drum beat. Should sound something like this. Once you're comfortable playing it on the snare, try moving it around the kit. So I'm going to play the first 2 8th notes on the snare, and the rack tom, and I'm going to move the 16th notes between the snare and the floor tom. So that's 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and. Now, once you're comfortable in doing that, I really want to encourage you to actually just see if you can kind of sing that phrase around the kit. And what I mean by singing it is, I mean, rather than being quite harsh on yourself or being really specific about where the pattern lands, I want you just to kind of feel that rhythm of 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and da 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 da, and let your kind of hands move around naturally and see what kind of different ideas and sounds you can come up with. So something perhaps like this. It's a really good idea to just let your hands be free and come up with some new ideas and your own drum fills that are really personal to you. Now, the second thing I want to do is I'm going to look at the third part of our practice pad exercise. That's the 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and. And essentially, I'm going to do the same thing. So first of all, that rhythm on the snare. Slow it down for you. Alongside a groove. I'm then going to do the same thing I did earlier, snare to rack tom, snare to floor tom. So 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and. And then once again, it's trying to sing that fill over the drums to come up with your own ideas. By mixing up our subdivisions, it makes our drum fills sound more interesting to the listener. And as I said earlier today, we're focusing on speed, so let's see what they sound like a bit faster. Okay, time for the big kid stuff. I'm going to move things slightly further forward now, and we're going to enter the world of 30-second notes. What? That means 32 notes per bar. Now, we count 16th notes as 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E ender, but we're actually going to double the amount of notes we now play in that bar, which means we're going to count them as 1E and a 1E and a 2E and a 2E and a 3E and a 3E and a 4E and a 4E ender. Maybe I'll slow that down a little bit. So that's going from this 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a to this 1E and a 1E and a 2E and a 2E and a 3E and a 3E and a 4E and a 4E and a. Now, we're still keeping with the same idea of moving between two subdivisions. So before, we were playing 1 and 2E ander, 3 and 4E ander. Now, the 8th notes are going to become 16th notes, 1E, and the 16th notes are going to become the 32nd notes, which I'm going to count again as 1E ander. So you end up with a 1E, 1E ander, 2E, 2E ander, 3E, 3E ander, 4E, 4E ander. Bit of a tongue twister, these ones. I would try this at a very slow tempo. When you play 32nd notes, you are playing a lot of notes in a very small amount of time. So drop things down, allow yourself enough time to be able to play the drum fill. What I'll do is I'll show you the difference between the 8th to 16th and then the 16th to 32nd, so you can hear just how much of a jump and how it changes the sound. So I'm going to give myself lots of time. 1E and a 1E and a 2E. Cool, come to that. So 8th notes first. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now 16th to 32nds. Back to 8th notes. Sixteenths and 32nds. Because we're doubling the speed of our counting, we also have to double our phrasing as well. So you're going to play this phrase 4 times to complete 1 bar of your drum fill. Now I'm going to try one of those drum fills we did earlier, where I went from snare to tom and snare to floor tom. I'm playing that as 1E, 1E ander, 2E, 2E ander, 3E, 3E ander, 4E, 4E ander. And I'm going to play that alongside my groove. Remember, do not go too fast on your groove. If you start off really fast here, by the time you get to those 32nd notes on the toms, you will explode. So really take your time. I'll start off with the fill first, and then I'll show you alongside our groove. So I quite like that phrase, but I'm going to change it slightly. I'm now going to play 3 lots of snare to tom before I play the 4th phrase, snare to floor tom. Should sound something like this. A little bit quicker. Things are starting to get a little bit tasty. For the next drum fill, I'm going to alter that fill again. I'm going to keep the beginning the same. It's actually just the last beat that I'm going to change. So instead of playing 16th notes and 32nd notes on my floor tom, I'm actually going to stick with the 16th notes and just play 4E and because it gives me this really nice kind of smooth out back into the groove. So I'm playing this bit the same, but the ending now, instead of being, it's just 4E and So together it sounds like this. what I mean? That is one tasty drum fill. One final alteration for our last example I want to make is to, instead of playing 2 hits on the snare with our 16th notes, I'm going to move that left hand and leave it on the tom. So instead of 1 E, 1 E and A, I play 1 E, 1 E and A. So the left hand stays there, and that makes things sound quite tasty as well. And if we want to, we can then actually leave it there for the final part of the fill, and instead of playing snare, snare, floor, floor, we could play snare, tom, floor, floor. So when I put them together, I get this. Eventually, hopefully, you'll get to a point where you can actually experiment with more and more of these phrases and come up with loads of different ideas. And I have to say, it is incredibly addictive. And you will never ever see me just playing that same fill over and over again. There is a lot of fun to be had with these drum fills, but it all starts with that practice pad exercise we did at the beginning of today's lesson. Make sure you put the time in with that, because it will make the drum fills so much easier to play, particularly if you want to go faster and play those 30-second note drum fills. My name's Will. It still is Will. I don't know why it's been Will. It's still Will. If you've liked today's lesson, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again soon.